Something happened to you today. You may not have the words to describe what you feel yet, but something inside you shifted, a subtle displacement that left everything around you strangely different. You woke up with the feeling that the scenery of your life, though it looks the same, has been replaced by a quieter, more demanding version. I came here today to tell you exactly what that was, because what you are feeling is not random. It is a summons breaking through the surface of your routine to find what was buried within you, long before you learned how to survive. Throughout our conversation, you will recognize the truth about the signs that have been appearing in your days and what they truly mean for your path. You will understand the exact pattern that has been blocking what you seek, that cycle that seems to have no end, but is now being unmasked. And before this moment comes to a close, there is a declaration I will speak directly over your life, a revelation that explains why this message found you on this 15th day of June. You are here because your spirit knows there is an original map, an identity you carried before the world told you who you were supposed to be. You have noticed it, haven't you? Those moments when the silence becomes too heavy, as if the air around you were charged with an electricity that cannot dissipate. You feel waves of a deep emotion rising out of nowhere, with no event to justify them, as if a memory that does not belong to you were trying to surface. Perhaps you have noticed conversations with people who have always been part of your circle, but that now, suddenly, sound hollow, echoing words that no longer find a home in your chest. And there is the weariness. It is not the weariness of the body, healed by a night's sleep, but an exhaustion of the soul, a fatigue of one who carries a weight that is not their own. Many would call this a crisis, stress, or a period of imbalance. But I tell you the truth, this is calibration. What you feel as disorientation is actually your internal system adjusting its frequency for what is to come. You are moving away from who you had to become to please the world, so that your essence, the one you possessed before any expectation, can finally breathe. That discomfort you feel when looking at certain routines is proof that your original identity is trying to override the mask you built to survive. It is not a problem. It is an invitation. It is your being saying that the phase of adaptation is over and the phase of revelation has begun. Your fingers typing these 3 numbers are your spirit saying yes. It is the smallest of agreements, but it is the most real, because it breaks the silence of your resistance and affirms your presence here. Type 888, then come right back to me. Because what lies beneath this layer of calibration is what will truly define your journey from now on. What you have been living is not a failure of your dedication. You have been working harder than anyone around you, applying immense force in directions that simply no longer allow your growth. You have mixed your genuine hunger with roots that do not lead to your purpose, and that is why, no matter how hard you strive, the door remains closed. The exhaustion you feel is the result of trying to sustain a structure that is no longer supported by your true destiny. You have, for a long time, been trying to be the answer to a problem that was not designed for you to solve. But there is an even deeper structure, something placed within you before life demanded you be pragmatic. Imagine a root that descends far beyond the superficial soil everyone sees. For generations, perhaps, you have been taught to keep your head down, to produce, to silence your own voice, to avoid causing discomfort. That root has been kept under a soil of others' expectations, dry, without the water that would give it life. But the truth is, even under all that earth, your root remains intact. It did not die. It merely waited for the moment when you would stop trying to bloom in foreign soil to recognize that the ground you walk on is, in fact, sacred and profoundly your own. You do not need to build this path. You only need to remove the debris hiding it. Your effort was not in vain, but it was misdirected by the weight of expectations you carried as if they were your own will. When you dedicate years of your life to a purpose not designed for your spirit, the exhaustion is not just physical, it is a resistance of your own essence crying out for redirection. You have been trying to force open paths never meant for your feet. You have invested your vital energy, your creativity, and your hope in fields that do not hold the seed of what you were called to cultivate. And this diagnosis is precise. Not so you feel guilty, but so you finally understand why the feeling of always being on the edge never dissipates. The exhaustion you feel is the result of constant dissonance. It is like trying to keep a vessel moving by pulling ropes tied to a dock you should have left behind long ago. You are exhausted because your strength is being drained to maintain the illusion that if you try a little harder, if you are a little more patient or a little more productive, peace will finally arrive. But peace is not the destination for one striving on the wrong path. Peace is the result of being exactly where you were planted from the beginning. Consider the metaphor of the root I mentioned. If a seed is cast onto rocky soil, it may sprout, but it will struggle against the hardness of the earth with every inch it tries to grow. It is not a defective plant, it is merely a plant in soil that does not match its nature. You have spent decades, perhaps your entire life, believing the hardness of the soil was your problem, when the real problem was the location. The generations that came before you, with their own pains and fears of survival, shaped the terrain where you were placed, and told you should be grateful to exist in it. They taught that safety lay in conformity, that the value of your being was measured by your ability to adapt to this dry land. But your original identity, the one you possessed before being taught to hide, never accepted this soil. It remained alive, like a deep root, waiting for you to recognize the desolation around you so you could seek your own place. This debris you walk on today, made of duties, demands, and imposed silences, is beginning to shift. You feel this movement as restlessness. You feel this call as vertigo. But it is just your root, finally finding room to expand toward the water that was always available, but which the fear of abandoning the old soil prevented you from reaching. Take a deep breath now. Let this image of the ground you walk on become real in your mind. Allow this declaration to affirm your commitment to your own truth. The act of typing these 3 words is the seal you place on your personal record, confirming that the phase of resistance is over and the phase of recognition has begun. Type, anchor this moment in your now, and then come right back to me. As you do this, understand that your validation no longer depends on anyone. If the message you have heard so far confirmed something your spirit was already whispering in the hours of silence, let your like be your wordless amen. It is not a metric. It is not a number to boost anyone. It is a silent signal that you recognize what was said, and that you accept the delivery of the revelation without the need to fight for it. Accept that what is being revealed does not require you to build anything. It only requires you to accept what is already present, waiting only for you to remove what no longer belongs to you. You do not need to become anything new. You only need to stop trying to be what the world projected onto you. Your life force is returning. It does not come from effort, but from permission. You are no longer trying to solve problems that are not yours. You are beginning to inhabit the space reserved for you since before you had a name. And this shift, however subtle it may seem to outside eyes, is the greatest change a life can experience. You are detaching from roots that only consumed your time and aligning with a flow that, for the first time, offers no resistance. It is as if, after a long journey against the current, you have finally turned the boat and realized the entire river now flows in your favor. What seemed impossible to reach was, in fact, just waiting for you to stop rowing toward the obstacle. And this is the key many seek outside themselves, but which resides in the quiet of your own being. The solution is not in a new life strategy, nor in a to-do list or plans that demand more of your exhaustion. The solution is the return. It is the recognition that for a long time you have been trying to occupy places not designed for your stature, trying to carry weights never assigned to your hands. You have been trying to be the architect of a destiny that in fact was already built, waiting only for your arrival. The return is the act of releasing control. It is to stop asking where you went wrong and begin observing where you were preserved. You realize, finally, that each detour, each door that closed, each moment of deep frustration were not signs of failure, but of redirection. You were being guided, even when you felt lost. Your original being, the one that existed before all the layers of familial and social expectation were imposed upon you, is asking for passage. It does not need fixing. It needs space. And that space is created when you stop fighting and begin to simply exist, present, aware, and available. There are people around you living in constant agitation, but in the silence of your perception, you recognize who truly needs this message. There is someone in your trajectory who has been working harder than anyone else, someone who carries in their eyes a weariness that is not physical, but existential. That silent seeker who carries secrets no one else sees, someone who feels out of place, yet keeps moving forward with a faith they cannot even explain. That face, which just appeared with clarity in your mind as I spoke, is not there by chance. That person needs to know their effort has been seen. Send this to them, not as advice, but as an offering. Perhaps they need just a word, a reminder that the time to harvest what was planted in secret is arriving. Be the channel of that validation for someone who, like you, has been holding up the world on their back without asking for help. Breathe once more. Feel how the weight on your shoulders begins to dissipate, not because the problems have vanished, but because you have stopped trying to solve them alone. Your identity is not what you do or what you produce. Your identity is what you are. It is your alignment with the purpose whispered in your ear, even before you were born. Before this moment ends, you must affirm this so your subconscious records the new frequency. Do not write this as a wish, nor as a distant hope. Type it as a confirmation that you have accepted the truth of your nature. Let your spirit take possession of this identity, allowing the handwriting of your fingers on the keyboard to confirm what your interior has already declared as law. Type now, calmly and with all the authority this truth grants you, and feel how it stabilizes your presence here in this very moment. Do you now understand the extent of what is at stake? Do you understand that your journey is not a sequence of random events, but a golden thread running through your entire history, connecting who you were to what you are becoming? You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. The commitment is to the truth you can no longer deny. The commissioning is the authority returned to you to walk upon what once paralyzed you. And the sending is your ability to be light wherever you are positioned, without effort, simply by your own existence. You feel, in this exact instant, that the solidity of the ground beneath your feet has changed in consistency. It is not a physical change, not something anyone could measure with rulers or devices. It is an alteration of spiritual density that occurs when an ancient truth, nearly forgotten, finally finds its resting place in your chest. The effort you exerted for years to sustain yourself, to prove your own validity before a world that rarely looks beyond the surface, that effort was not in vain, though it was exhausting. It was, in fact, a training in endurance for the moment when the revelation of who you were before being shaped by the pressures of this existence would become your only compass. Every step you took, every disappointment you felt upon seeing doors close, every moment of silence when you wondered if you were on the right path, all of it served to polish your perception. You were not built by circumstances. You were polished by them, so your essence could shine with the necessary clarity now. And that is why, at this moment, the urgency to act, to fight, to convince is being replaced by a deep quietude, a peace that does not depend on external conditions, but on the internal recognition that you are exactly who you should be at the exact time you should be. Life as you knew it demanded you be a cog in a mechanism that did not account for your original nature. You were forced to adapt to a mold that never fit your spirit. But looking back through the lens of clarity, you realize the frustrations were actually protections. The delays were not denials, they were preparations. You were being kept in a state of active waiting, ready for a revelation that would change not your scenery, but your gaze upon the scenery. What was a burden now becomes a step. What was confusion now becomes the evidence of a lineage, a heritage you carry that is now beginning to awaken. Do not try to rush this awakening. Calibration is a slow process, made of small pauses, moments of silence, instants when the world around seems to fade so something more vibrant can occupy the center of your vision. You have the right to stop. You have the right to release control. You have the right to be simply who you were designed to be, without the masks that the fear of scarcity or the need for others' approval placed upon your face. It is a homecoming, a return to that place where your voice had authority, where your desire was a command, and where your peace was the natural state. Observe how, upon releasing, energy flows back to your center. Observe how clarity, which once seemed a moving target, now becomes your very skin. You are no longer chasing after life. You are allowing life to recognize who you are. It is an alignment that dispenses with explanations, that dispenses with justifications. You no longer need to convince anyone about what you are feeling, because the frequency you emit now speaks louder than any word you could choose. It is an authority born of surrender, a strength born of assumed vulnerability. From this instant on, what you understand is not just a concept, but a reality settling into your vibrational field. You have already felt the resistance diminish, not because the problem disappeared, but because your perspective on it has risen. Imagine now a current that once tried to drag you in opposite directions, and that now, suddenly, aligns with the natural flow of your own being. This is the essence of your return. It is as if, layer by layer, the expectations imposed by others were being removed, revealing the exact contour of your original essence. You are no longer operating under the aegis of survival, but under the law of identity. This transition requires a courage few understand. It is the courage not to be what they expect you to be. It is the boldness to embrace the void, knowing that, in your case, the void is not lack. It is space for the new. Remember all the times you felt your energy was being drained by projects, conversations, or environments that had no connection to your purpose. That was not a waste in vain. It was a filtering process. You were learning through exhaustion, where your spirit refuses to dwell. Every time you felt out of place, it was your soul signaling that territory was not your planting ground. Consider the depth of your own root. A tree that grows in rocky soil did not choose the stones, but it learned to navigate around them to reach the underground water. You have been doing exactly that. Your story, with all its interruptions, was not a wrong turn. It was the necessary hardening so your foundation could become unshakable. When you look at the difficulties of recent times, you no longer see just the obstacles. You begin to see the design. You notice how each crisis was a course correction, so you would not get lost on paths that, though they seemed promising, were ultimately dead ends for your true self. There is a truth that now rests upon you like a light mantle. It is the understanding that you no longer need to prove your existence. Your identity is not a trophy to be won. It is a fact to be assumed. You were designed with a specific signature, a code no other human being possesses. By trying to emulate others, you only block the flow of your own creativity. But now, by accepting your singular place, you open the floodgates for your personal mission to begin manifesting effortlessly. It is the transition from human effort to the fluidity of divine authority. Breathe deeply. Let this idea of return fill your chest. You are not a beginner on this path. You are someone who was asleep and who now finally opens their eyes to the scenery that has always been before you. What you sought out there, in recognition, validation, or material security, was only a shadow of what already existed internally. That place of peace you searched for so much. It is not a destination. It is your point of departure. It is the foundation upon which you must build all your days from now on. There is no need for haste, because time, in the realm of the soul, does not obey clocks. Everything that needs to be revealed will be, at the exact moment, you are ready to sustain that truth without retreating. The exhaustion you felt was not a sign of weakness, but of endurance. You resisted your own calling for so long that your physical body finally exhausted the fuel of resistance. Now, peace is your fuel, clarity is your direction, and the certainty that you are guided is your constant companion. Notice how your breathing has changed. It is no longer short and anxious. It is deep, rhythmic, connected. You are being tuned to a higher frequency, and that requires at times that you disconnect from frequencies that once seemed normal, but now sound like noise. The silence you have been seeking is the sanctuary where your original voice is finally heard. Do not fear this silence. It is the voice of your Creator speaking directly to the part of you that never forgot who you truly are. Throughout this journey, you will notice that your presence alone already alters the environment. You will no longer need to raise your voice to be heard or strain to be noticed. The aura of one who knows exactly who they are and to whom they belong has a weight of its own, a gravity that attracts what is necessary and repels what is superfluous. You are entering the maturity of your purpose. It is not something you do, it is something you are. It is a quietness that commands respect, a serenity that disarms chaos, and a certainty that blooms even in the most arid soil. You are becoming the point of stability for those who are still lost in the storm, and in doing so, you lose nothing. You gain everything. Your journey is living proof that restoration is possible, that the soul, though forgotten, is never lost. It simply waits for the moment you decide, finally, to look within. You now carry a clarity that was once foreign to you, as if the veil that covered your vision has finally been removed. That person who came to your mind as we spoke, that someone who has been working quietly, who carries a weariness no one notices, and who, even exhausted, continues searching for an answer that always seems just out of reach, that person needs what you have just received. Do not keep this as a secret. It is an invitation for them to also find the way back. Before this moment closes, I want you to understand the depth of what has been established. You did not hear these words by chance, nor are you here by a mere coincidence of the calendar on this date of June 15th. There is an identity that belongs to you, something that was written before you ever assumed the roles the world imposed on you. To consolidate this recognition, as a final seal upon your consciousness, type now the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments below. Do not write as one who is asking for something, but as one who confirms a truth that is already in operation. Write calmly, allowing the record of this truth to become part of your own spiritual signature. Feel now the strength of what we are building together in this space of recognition. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. From now on, the world around you will begin to respond differently, not because you change the scenery, but because you change the frequency of the one observing it. At this very moment everywhere, in distant cities and in quiet rooms, other people are receiving this same revelation, feeling the same call, and understanding the same truth about their origin. You are part of a movement that needs no fanfare to be real. A movement of souls who have decided to stop struggling and begin to reign. Your quietness is the proof that you have understood the mystery. Your peace is the testimony that your identity has been restored.